All right, guys, thank you for tuning in live. Waiting for a few more people to kind of accumulate here in the chat. And if you guys are able to read the description of the video, we're going to be talking about some of my experiences. I was just out of the state. I was out of Florida. I was actually in North Carolina. We'll talk about some of the things that we experienced, and also talk about some of the topics I have on the video title, and then at the end I'll answer any questions that you guys may have. So it's just me solo today here in the studio, but would love to answer your guys' questions, but also talk to you guys about some cool stuff that I learned while I was gone. But yeah. All right. So I'll go back through these guys. So if you comment on here, don't worry, I will be answering all the questions here at the end, and I'm super excited to share some stuff with you guys. So how important is radio communications when it comes to a prepared citizen, when it comes to a Minuteman team, when it comes to just us as a group, as citizens in the preparedness realm? And I knew that it was important, you know, from my last job in the military, and you know, comms is a big deal. But the big thing about comms is you have to put a lot of time, effort, and energy into it. And there was honestly not a lot of references. For me, I've always had this intimidation factor of like, man, it's just so much to grasp. Like going from military style radio to civilian radio is completely different as far as like all of the, you know, programming techniques, all the different antennas that they have available, how to integrate that stuff into your kit is relatively the same, but the only thing that I carried over from the military side was like using brevity, how to talk on the radio, so like radio etiquette, passing information, a little bit of antenna theory, but a lot of that was about it as far as what I was able to bring over from the military side over to you know, the preparedness group side. So some of that does carry over, but I will say that one of the biggest resources that I stumbled across, and we had a great time hanging out, you guys may actually have heard of him, but his name is, he goes by NC Scout is his pseudonym that he goes by. So he has this best-selling book called The Gorilla's Guide to the Baofeng Radio, and you can actually buy it on Amazon. Now what's really interesting is he actually told me there's a ton of knockoffs, and I actually was victim to one of the knockoffs. If he sees this, he'll probably laugh, but I got this book, the Baofeng Bible, thinking it was his, and it was a complete scam. So there is no author for this book. Okay, Elliot G. Hawk, maybe, but like a lot of the stuff that I saw in here, I was like, I feel like this is like AI. Maybe I'm wrong, but it was not the one that I was looking for. So if he did have, this was a good one. I kind of started diving into it a little bit, but I was like, man, some of this stuff seems like it was written by AI. But I ended up finding the original book, which is what I wanted. And dude, this dude is a wealth of knowledge. We are actually uploading the video right now. I did 2 episodes with him talking about comms. And if you guys know anything about our videos, we do have some entertaining type stuff in there, but a lot of the videos we put out is information. Like I want to give you guys and provide you information, and it's information also that sometimes I'm learning along the way. Like I don't know it all, and so I'm learning these things along the way and I'm sharing them with you. So this next video is called Guerrilla Warfare Communications, and it is with NC Scout, and it is one of 2 episodes that we did with him. We'll be doing some more. Now what's really cool about this book and some stuff that he showed me is it talks about everything from how to develop your own like medevac request, so that way you guys can develop your own TTPs, as far as how you want to establish your brevity. He talks about like it's a very dumbed down, very simple for Eric to understand type of way, almost like a cheat sheet book of how to program your Baofeng in different configurations to be able to use it to the fullest extent. He also has like antennas, like how to build custom antennas. He actually, I forgot to grab it. He gave me one and I forgot to get it, but it was a jungle antenna that one of his students made, and he actually made a had his students make in the RTO course a jungle antenna that he was able to talk line of sight like 45 miles. It was insane. And so really, really robust as far as the knowledge that you get out of it. Now he did have a 3-day RTO course, which is super cool. To be honest, you guys, I don't even know of any other course that exists like that that's available for citizens to be able to take an RTO course. It's 3 days. He's able to issue you your ham license test, and I'm not mistaken, I think you can actually test and get your ham license at the end of the course, or take the test to be able to get your ham license. But super really down-to-earth guy, really cool. And we're actually talking about doing a collaboration course together. So it'd be like a mixture of like some radio stuff and maybe a night vision course or something like that. So if you guys would like that, it would be in North Carolina. And that is something that we have talked about doing. He actually has at his, where he has his classroom and stuff, he calls it the G base. And it's like, oh, that's pretty neat. But so one of the cool things I wanted to point out to you guys is he has like stuff like pro words, how to use different pro words to be very efficient when you're talking on the radio. He has how to establish call signs, how to build a pace plan, which is essentially like a communications plan. So that way if the primary frequency is not working or someone gets bumped off, you can go to the secondary frequency, and there's a whole way that you guys would do that, or a procedure that you guys would establish in your group. So guys, I mean, as far as communications is key. I mean, you have to be able to communicate to honestly be able to effective. So if for those who know the classic pillars of small unit tactics, shoot, move, communicate, communications is super vital. Now, one of the other things that he did is you can actually buy this online on Amazon, or you can go to his store, brushbeater.store, I think it is, and get this book. It's only like $20, I believe, not very expensive. But he also, in the course, when you take the RTO course, he can give you one of these, and it's a pocket-sized version. So I could literally stick it in my pocket. And in the military, what's crazy is we had the same thing. We have like these pocket guides. I'm actually gonna, we would actually have these pocket guides that we would like stick inside of our pocket so that way I can reference it. So there's a lot of these quick reference type manuals that they have in the military. And so him making a quick reference type manual for citizens for the Baofeng is super conducive. The best manual that you need to have, though, obviously, have a pocket Bible. But like here, for example, is a custom pocket manual that I made for myself. This is a military one that I still currently am using. I'll just flip to a page, but it's held by 550 cord. Everything is laminated, so I can use map markers on it. And it has all different types of stuff in here that I need for the current job that I'm doing part-time. So like stuff like this. So it's a cool reference book and is honestly super useful. So call my fact pack. But the other book that he offers, which we are going to be having a second episode with him. We already did this, we already recorded it, but it was about signals intelligence, so SIGINT. Really, really cool book. He talks about the importance of signals intelligence, and what's really neat about that is it helps, like in the military we have a very good understanding of this, but on the civilian sector, half the battle is getting to talk, right? Like how do I establish communications, get this radio programmed, and be able to talk to who I want to talk to at the distance that they're out. If they're farther away, how can I communicate with them effectively? However, the other side of that coin is who's listening. And so the whole point of like brevity, which is like making up pro words for things that you're trying to communicate without other people knowing. So like say for example, a classic one I'm going to use from the movies is like, hey, I'm bingo fuel, or I'm bingo. So you don't want to say fuel, you would just say, hey, bingo. And what that means is I'm low on gas, right? One, it's a faster way to be able to communicate something. Two, it's if the other person that's listening to the radio that's not supposed to be listening hears that, they're kind of confused about what that could possibly mean. So that's just a very basic way of considering signal intelligence. But the other cool thing is that you can collect signals intelligence, and you can establish ways or procedures to make you harder to, I wouldn't say detect, but harder for people to understand what you're talking about, which is going to, in the end, protect your group, protect what you guys are doing. So, you know, a lot of cool references in here about SIGINT. He has also a thing where he covers some case studies of people who actually were killed. You know, in the military, we track people through communications. There's tons of open source studies, but open source operations that are very widely known, like Bin Laden, the leader of ISIS. You know, those guys were all tracked through SIGINT. They were all tracked through their communications, and in turn, one domino fell to another, one thing led to another, and it ended up allowing that person to be found and then struck with a weapon. So SIGINT is such a huge and important thing that we need to consider, and he has a book on that. So you can order that off of Brushbeater. The only book that you can order on Amazon is the Gorilla's Guide to the Baofeng Radio. So I would recommend getting going to his store, Brushbeater. And the cool thing is he also sells like a spectrum analyzer, which helps you to detect who's broadcasting on what frequencies. And so I learned all this stuff this past weekend, which is crazy. But he has like a spectrum analyzer, and you can buy all of this equipment on his website. But what a spectrum analyzer does is it helps with SIGINT, and actually they're using it in Ukraine right now. So the Russians and the Ukrainians are both using this, but it can detect when it has a certain amount of area that it can detect. So like maybe like, let's just say a mile, and it can also detect things like obviously radio signals, but also like drone signals, drone radio signals. So like if I'm a scout team or I'm a Ukrainian squad and I'm like, we're trying to go through the woods, and all of a sudden I have my spectrum analyzer, and this is where we have enablers on the team or someone on your Minuteman team that has a specific skill set, they're going to be your enabler. I have another video coming out on this when it comes about my fighting load. I'll be talking about the concept of bringing on enablers into your Minuteman team and what that would look like. We have enablers in the military, but how do you adopt that principle and adopt that concept to be able to use it for a Minuteman or you know, prepared citizen type squad? So one of the things is that is you have a spectrum analyzer, and if they're walking or doing a patrol and all of a sudden there's a spike for a drone signal that you have set for a specific frequency, and if you know your radius that you're able to detect that frequency is like 2 miles, then they're able to figure out, holy smokes, we need to get somewhere hidden, we need to get somewhere covered up because there is a drone flying around our area within 2 miles of here. So that's a life-saving device, you know, especially today in modern conflict. Having a drone that can be detected via spectrum analyzer, it's a very capable tool. So stuff like that he sells on the website. Some other stuff that he actually offered, and this is actually a school I'm very excited to go to here soon. Hopefully sometime this year I'd like to go. Been to, you know, privilege of going to other schools, but this is one that is on my bucket list, and that's Sniper School. He does have the FM Field Manual 23-10. It's pocket sized, so like this. And it is actually the 1994 manual. So it's an older manual, but what's really cool about this is it has a lot of the old skillcraft, the old bushcraft from that time frame. We have, I hate to say this, but we have, as a military, lost a lot of the art of that fieldcraft. We're trying to bring it back, but we've lost a lot of that, and we're seeing that it's super important, especially learning from the conflict in Ukraine, about how that is something that we need to make sure that we're still up on, and it's still super important, especially things like camouflage, you know, signal masking or signal intelligence. The Russians, from what I've been hearing, are really effectively engaging a lot of Ukrainian forces because of their SIGINT, their signals are being detected. This also has stuff like how to do a sector sketch, how to you know, stalk, how to be able to insert without being discovered. So really, really cool. But yeah, do I really eat crayons? No, just kidding. No, I do not eat crayons. But there's another one that he has. This is a field manual from, this is a 1988 field manual, and it's Special Forces Operational Techniques. Really, really cool, pocket size, but it has, again, a lot of the old bushcraft. It has really, really cool stuff in there, and I think it's now becoming more pertinent more than ever. Now, here's another book that I actually saw that was recommended to him that he actually, one of his students left at his team room, and I actually picked it up on Amazon, and it is called The Red Army Guerrilla Warfare Pocket Manual. It's honestly a really cool manual. It is the manual that they would give to the partisans back in World War II, but once again, like, they have stuff like how to field strip a PPSH, really, really interesting stuff. How to, field strip an anti-tank rifle. But there's also some really cool fieldcraft stuff that we've kind of forgotten over the years. Like, if you're using different materials for digging a trench, like sand, how much material do you need to have between you and the front of that berm to be able to effectively stop those rounds? So, really, really cool. How to do a foxhole inside of a building if you're going to have it like that. And there's some really, really interesting stuff. Reconnaissance, basics of rules of partisan reconnaissance. So just some interesting things, but you can pick this up on Amazon. So that's something that I have really been interested in and trying to get smart on. So guys, that's kind of my book list for right now, but go check him out if you guys are going to pick up a radio. The other radio that he had that was really, really cool was the PRC 152. But the Baofeng version. So the Prick 152 is a military radio. It's a big green radio. You see them in like airsoft messages and stuff like that where they have like replicas of them. But you can actually get a Baofeng 152. They call it the Fang 152, I believe. It's a bigger radio, but it pushes 10 watts. And it's also water. It does pretty decent against resisting, moisture. And so he actually would use the PRC or the Baofeng 152, and he hooked it to this tablet. It was like a Walmart, cheapo Android tablet, and we were communicating digitally through these radios. It was fascinating. And also, it was encrypted. So we actually talk about that on this next episode that's coming out. So if you're a member on the YouTube channel, you can go check that episode out. One of the other things that we're talking about doing, guys, is also establishing a Patreon page. Roy and I do this full time. It's definitely getting off the ground, but we can't do this without your guys' support. So we're going to be establishing a Patreon channel just because there have been folks that have asked, hey, are you guys have different ways where we can support you, but at the same time, give you guys access to content that we cannot, absolutely not put on YouTube. YouTube is extremely strict with their guidelines. They're very, very strict with a lot of things. So we're either talking about using a Patreon or a Gray Hive account. And Gray Hive is a version of YouTube, but it's run by shooters. So it's a gun community social media platform. They don't have an app right now. It's just on a laptop or a desktop computer that you can access that. But we can put content on there. We're actually going to allow Gray Hive to build a channel for us. So that way, any topic, any type of material, we can teach anything, we can do any of that type of stuff. It will be either on Gray Hive or possibly on Patreon. So maybe we'll have both. I don't know. We're still trying to figure that out. Let me know what you guys think about that and what we should run with. So real quick, I don't know why I say real quick in front of a lot of things. You ever have that where you like put in filler words randomly? I have actually been studying near-death experiences, and I don't know if you guys have listened to the Sean Ryan podcast recently, where he actually interviews an author. He used to be a pastor, and he's an author that studied near-death experiences. Really fascinating stuff, but I've really been looking into that a lot, and so what comes after this life? What comes when we die? A lot of interesting things is that people who have near-death experiences have actually said that when they die and they leave this earth and they go to the afterlife, it is more real than this life, which is crazy to think about. They say that they have what's called like blended senses, like blind people can see You can almost see, hear, and taste colors. Like there's more colors that exist in the afterlife and in that dimension than in this dimension and in this world. So some really, really cool testimonies that he shares about people who have near-death experiences and what they see, whether heaven or a hell experience. And it's really, really wild. So I've been studying that. Go check out the Sean Ryan podcast on that if you guys are looking to watch something or listen to something when you're driving to work. Obviously, listen to the HatchetCast podcast. We will be recording another HatchetCast podcast this week since we're all kind of back in town. And, one other thing. We are actually doing a 2-day scope carbine at Element Training Center in Holt, Florida. So if you guys want to do that, we are going to be having, it's on a Saturday, Sunday class. It'll be 2 days. Element Training Center is actually centrally located in the Panhandle, so it's close to people in Georgia, Alabama, Louisiana, Mississippi, and a little bit of a drive, but you can reach that center from Texas as well. So if you're in those areas and you want to sign up for a class, it's going to be this upcoming Saturday and Sunday, 2 days, and we are going to be stretching your rifles out. So it's 5.56. You're going to be, getting your dope and all that stuff, and seeing the capabilities and walking away with a better understanding of shooting distance with 5.56, and getting dope for your SPR or your general purpose rifle, and being very confident engaging targets out at distance. Now Sunday, we know that the class is going to be during church hours, so we're actually going to be hosting a Bible study before class early Sunday morning, so that way we can still gather together and fellowship and have, study the Word of God. We've also talked about doing a men's retreat. It's something I've been really thinking about and kind of praying about doing a men's retreat where it's a multi-day event where we camp out on a property together, we eat together, we pray together, we shoot together, and fellowship. And so if you guys are interested in something like that or think that would be really cool, let me know what you guys think. I'm going to read a quick passage that has really stuck out to me. I read it in this next video that's on the Guerrilla Warfare Communications video, but that doesn't come out until June 17th. So I'm going to go ahead and read you a couple of verses from Philippians chapter 4, and it starts in verse 4. And it says, "Rejoice in the Lord always. I will say it again, rejoice. Let your gentleness be evident to all. The Lord is near. Do not be anxious about anything, but in every situation, by prayer and petition, with thanksgiving, present your requests to God, and the peace of God, which transcends all understanding, will guard your hearts and your minds in Christ Jesus." One of the things I've been studying in these near-death experiences is that when people go and they actually meet Jesus, they feel this overwhelming sense of love, this overwhelming sense of understanding, and it's so fascinating. And it's crazy because when Jesus is interacting with these people and talking with them, he's like, I don't want your religion. I don't want religious practices. I want a relationship. I want to spend time with you. And so that's one of the things that's always fascinated me about Jesus, is that he is so forgiving that he just wants to spend time with you. It's almost like, even for those who are Christians, I've been a terrible friend or son to God. Like, I have not been spending time with him. I almost look at it this analogy of like, you love your mom, right? You say that you love your mom is awesome, or that family member or that friend or your wife, and you say you love them and all this stuff, but whenever they wait for you all day long and they're excited to talk to you and excited to share things with you, and hey, just you can vent to me. I'll take the stress of your day, and I'll carry that, and I'll work with that through with you. And he waits all day long for us, and then we show up late and talk to him for like a minute or 2 minutes, and then you leave. And it's like, how true is that relationship? If you were doing that to your spouse or your friend, would you really consider that a real relationship where you guys are close? And that's the way that I look at prayer with God, is that I'm having a conversation with God, and it's a real conversation about my life struggles, about people that I'm praying about you guys. I pray about you guys all the time, that God will work in your life, that He will comfort you in your hard times, that He will be with you during those struggles, because we're all dealing with hardships in life. Life is not easy, but the power of prayer, like it talks about in Philippians, it literally is just don't worry about anything and pray about everything. And God will take that burden from you and take it off your life. And so anytime I've had like a black kind of garbage day, it's usually when I've not taken the time to read my Bible or not taken the time to pray and just talk to God and just let Him know what's on my heart. And usually after I pray and I let Him know what's on my heart and I take time for Him, I usually end up having a really good day. Even if things aren't working out, like I just keep running into problems, I attack those problems with joy and happiness. And man, like once God starts moving in your heart, and He's been doing this to me, of just like taking my heart and just squishing it up and making it soft, you know, like I used to be hard all the time, but don't really talk to people, kind of a, you know, not approachable sometimes. And He has just made me where I'm able to understand people's struggles a lot better and to be able to just come at it from a position of love, man. Like it's just so many of the quarrels of this world are so unimportant that, you know, Satan wants to just drive us apart and make it easier for him to attack us because he drives us away from friends or destroys relationships and wants us to be alone or feel insignificant. And God does not want that. He made all of us for a very specific purpose, and He made you so special. There is no one else on the planet just like you. And God made you for a specific job, a specific purpose. And if you follow that plan, man, you're going to find so much fulfillment. You know, Satan comes and attacks Barrel and Hatchet all the time, whether financially, whether through, you know, people or through comments and things like that. And dude, we are just constantly giving it to God to be able to say, hey, this is yours. You're in charge. What do? We will be obedient and follow you. And so it's a hard thing. It definitely is a hard thing. I have a lot of pride that I have to just push down and ask God to help me with. But dude, it's super, super awesome. And I want everyone to experience that love and experience that change and that compassion. I don't want to hold that by myself. I want you guys to all experience it as well. So anyways, guys, I'm going to go ahead and go through some of these comments. I hope you got something out of this live. I just wanted to kind of catch up with you guys. I haven't talked on a live in a while since I've been out of the state. So we'll go ahead and start working through this. Basement Ops. Hey, Roy. Roy is actually not here. I'm Eric. But sometimes that gets flip-flopped, and that's all right. I want to say thank you for all you guys do. Do you mind to go over your experiences with the EXPS2? The EXPS2 is good. I prefer the EXPS3 specifically because of the riser. And then what you want to have is you want to have the EOTech model that has the night vision capability. When you don't have, when you don't have the version that has night vision capability, if you end up getting into nods, it literally, the reticle, even at the lowest setting, will still be too bright for you to be able to run effectively in nods because it'll blow out that little optic square, and so you won't be able to actually really see your targets very well. So I highly recommend whatever you get, the 2, the 3, or the 4, whatever one, make sure you get a version that has the night vision mode. All right, Roy. Okay, so Eric, what are your opinions on people that don't believe or share your religious views? My opinion on that is that I love you, and God calls us to love all people. And, you know, I have had my life changed, and my testimony is super special. And God says that our testimonies of how God has interacted and saved us they hold a lot of weight. And so I think the one thing is, man, is that I would recommend if you're looking to try to give God a try or to give Jesus a try. And first off, I want to say that I do respect that you have your religious views, and if you were here, I'd hug you like a brother. And so what I do want to say, though, is that I am able to, I just want you to understand that I have experienced when following Jesus, so much love in my life. I've experienced so much hope, and I've been in some really bad situations. I mean, you want to talk about rock bottom. I have been in places where I was at rock bottom, where there was no way out. And it took surrendering to God to be able to, by surrendering, I mean seeking Him and asking Him for help. It took that, and the response I got was such overwhelming love. And I've never had an experience where God is looking down at me going, hey, idiot, like, do you not understand? Like, it's fine, just quit, quit struggling. Like, I got you. It's not like that. Like, God's heart broke with me when I was going through that hard time. God's understanding is so immense. And then He just overflows you with love, that it has changed my life so much that I just want other people to experience that. Because my love for you, man, is I love you. And I want you to be able to experience that as well. And so, yeah, but, I understand that there are people who are maybe not Christians, and I pray that one day that you'll be able to have a testimony and be able to experience His love. And if you're ever interested, let me know. I would love to talk to you. Send the Bible to you. We can talk about it on the phone. But yeah, NC Scout has a lot of cool stuff. Got a few of his books now. Awesome. Do you guys really eat crayons? Yeah. Which flavor do you eat over the others? Probably purple. I don't know why, but I feel like red would taste the best. Now those dyes. What's your opinion? Okay, here we go. That one. 100% interested in a men's retreat. Sounds awesome. Sounds awesome. Too bad I'm on the West Coast. God bless all of you. Hello, sir. The retreat does sound interesting. Like to hear more once it catches momentum. Two and a half to 15 after. Okay, the T6 Xi 2.5 to 15. After watching your review, it feels nice. Is it still working well for you? Absolutely. I absolutely love that optic. It's great. I will say that I do wish that I had the 3 to 18 though, because the reticle has a Christmas tree in it. I appreciate everything you do. By far my favorite channel on here, and I love the podcast. Also, I have listened to all of Blurry Creatures and Han Cosmos on your recommendations. That's awesome. I'm actually, a new podcast I'm listening to is the Confessionals podcast. But yeah, Blurry Creatures is blown up, man, so it's awesome. Let it out, man. I get weepy when I talk about it too. That's awesome. Any updates on the Ranch 2.0? Sadly, Ranch 2.0 is kind of sidelined for now, just due to funds. The investors were not able to come through, so hopefully we're going to keep praying about it. And yeah, a buddy of mine has been diagnosed with MS, has been asking me about handguns for home defense. Given his new normal, would you have any advice for him? MS. I cannot remember what that stands for. If you could just give me an update on what MS stands for. I love the guy stand on Christ as your foundation. Amen, brother. This is just my personal opinion, but Christianity is just another form of extremism or maybe fanatism. I respect your beliefs, but I don't share them. But I do enjoy your 2A content. Thanks. Thanks, man. I appreciate that. And yeah, I understand. And so if you ever need anything, though, I will pray for you. Whether you have any problems or issues that come up in life, always feel free. But yeah, I do respect your opinion, and I thank you for being here. I'm really glad you're here. Glad to see you made it. Glad you made it up to see my friend NC Scout. Yeah, NC Scout's awesome, dude. He's a really good guy. He has a hilarious beard. He's very, very good at holding conversations, so it makes it super easy to talk to him. But yeah, he's a legit dude. If God is really loving to us, why is He not answering? I think so. That's an interesting question. I think that one of the things that there are cases where God has actually answered, and we also see it in Scripture where God has answered people whenever they are praying to Him. But the way that God answers is so different and different. It's all in different ways. Some of the ways it's either through other people, and it's just like the coincidences are too overwhelming to be just a coincidence, and they continuously happen. I've also had times where God will speak to me through my natural devotion. So as I'm reading, like say for example, I just start from the beginning of the Bible, and I'm working out throughout the year to just read the whole Bible, and I'm going through a time in my life, and as I'm reading, natural devotion on my natural schedule, I'm like, I've read this verse before, but why is this standing out to me so much? And it's God will speak to you through the Word, and also through things and circumstances in your life. And sometimes there's people who've had God speak to them in a dream or a supernatural type of experience. But yeah, once you pray, you'll start to see, man, or you come to know Him. You'll start to see like how God speaks to you, and it's pretty amazing. And when Roy actually got saved at the men's retreat, he actually had a physical presence that he encountered that was incredible. So that's actually on Hatchet Cast episode, I think it's 28, but it's labeled and it has Roy's testimony in the title of it. So, hey Roy, just want to say thank you for all your. So Roy is actually at, I think he's doing stuff around his house, but. Yeah, Roy and Eric, we get our names flip-flop all the time. But I want to say thank you for all you and the other guys do in the space, both faith-wise and training-wise. Amen, brother. Thank you so much. And yeah, multiple sclerosis. All right, I'll just call it, all right, MS. He is physically strong, but his dexterity has declined a bit. He has tingling and numbness in his hands when it flares up. That's a tough one. I guess as long as he's safe and is following those 4 firearm fundamental safety rules, then I would recommend doing that. But I think it just has to come to a realization of what your abilities are, and at that point, it's you have to keep other people in mind and yourself. Like, you don't want something to happen because of a condition that causes you to be unsafe. So as long as he's safe, I mean, there's guys on YouTube that literally shoot. There's a guy on YouTube and Instagram. He's called the no-handed shooter. He's literally he has no hands, and he's figured out how to shoot a gun. So it can be done. Where there's a will, there's a way. Just follow the 4 firearm safety rules. The Y Files just posted an episode of the Giants of Malta. Yeah, dude, the Y Files is a great one. I'm asking prayers for my brother who has glioblastoma. Wow, if you want to, actually send an email to team@barrelandhatchet.com. And if you're able to give us some more details or whatever details you're willing to share, we'll actually specifically bring that up tomorrow. Tomorrow's Tuesday? No, Wednesday on our prayer meeting. I can't wait till my relationship with God grows, but right now I'm feeling a bit of how you were speaking earlier. Like I'm just speaking to Him for quick moments here and there. Something I need to fix. Yeah, dude, I kind of would only pray when I was in needing of something. And it kind of reminded me of like a kid who goes when an adult, and he goes and one second. So it's like I go and I talk to him or talk to my parents when I need something. Hey, I need some money. Hey, I need this. Hey, I need this. And those parents continuously give you those things that you ask for in the hopes that you'll spend time with them, that you'll hang out with them, and be with them. And so when we don't, and we just ask for things all the time, like, hey, help me out of this situation, He'll do it because He's a loving Father and He loves us. But we can start to feel like I can connect with that and like, man, that is kind of hurtful. Like if my kids grew up and didn't ever want to talk to me except for when they need something and to bail them out of trouble, I mean, how strong of a relationship is that? And so, and God is infinity times more loving than I am, and I love my kids immensely. But it's one of those things where I'm like, man, I want to be someone who has a good relationship with Christ, where I'm spending that quality time. Have you checked out any of S2 Underground's content? His stuff is amazing, and I think he actually lives in North Carolina, if I'm not mistaken. I'll have to reach out to him. I have believed Him and calling Him, but it is like He doesn't care. I have cried out, believe me, and try walking the Spirit. And I understand, man. I've been there. I've felt that way before. I've had times where sometimes I'm like, am I just talking to myself? Like, am I, and one of the things that's really interesting is when Roy talks about this in his testimony, and last year, for you guys who don't know, was probably the hardest year Barrel and Hatchet has ever had. And I would say it's definitely the hardest year Barrel and Hatchet ever had. This year's a tough year, just paying the bills and stuff like that. But we're still at it. And last year was super tough because of loss, and I just lost on multiple levels. And, you know, myself and Roy, we're like, hey, like, you know, pray before you eat and ask God to heal somebody whenever they need a prayer request. And then when we had that loss, we had the hardest moment of our lives in the fall. Roy was praying to God very angrily, and he was just super mad at God about what had happened. And I'll let you guys listen to the Hatchetcast episode on the podcast. You can listen to it on Spotify. I think it's episode 28, but it says Roy's testimony in the title. And it was so gut-wrenching, guys, man. I mean, like, we lost a very close person very unexpectedly, and Roy was just so angry at God. And then when he got saved, God ended up answering him, you know, 5-6 months later at a men's retreat, just the way that God, you know, works in our lives. And I told Roy, I was like, dude, God heard your prayer. And sometimes we get so overwhelmed with what we're going through that we are not able to hear that response. But God responded to you, and he responded because for the first time in your life, you were talking to him with a real conversation. God doesn't say, hey, only pray nice prayers. Like, you know, there's times where, you know, Job loses everything, and he was just voicing his frustrations of his life circumstances. And Roy, in the same way, was voicing the loss that he had and the hurt and the pain. And God responded and took that pain off of him, took that weight off of him. And so it was incredible to see. It changed my life just watching him and, you know, live that testimony real time. And God is there. Sometimes we feel like he's not, but if we are still, God always says to be still and to listen, and he'll speak to us. As far as open gym, so we did have open gym Saturday. We have it at Aries in Leesburg, Florida. We are looking at possibly hosting it at Element Training Center. So we're actually bringing Ben with us for this class on Saturday and Sunday to see if the facility is capable of hosting open gym, and then we'd be traveling back and forth to be able to conduct open gyms at different facilities. But right now, open gym is, I believe, open for legacy members. It's about to be opened up for new submissions, and you actually have to go through a review process because it's a very strong trust type of community. So if your skill sets are truly there to be able to be safe and effective, then you get access to open gym. But it is a very, very big trust type thing. So we do have a vetting process, but it's super easy. Essentially, you end up, if you're not cleared on the vetting, you just take a class with us, and then we individually like, hey, Ann, you should sign up for open gym. You're ready. You're good to go. So yeah. Do you have any plans to use Meshtastic for your own comms purposes, reaching out to dudes in times of emergency? If so, I'm setting up a few nodes northeast of Tampa. Hit me up. Yeah, send me an email, team@barrelandhatchet.com. I am interested. I turn to the word often when I feel like God's not hearing me. I think that one of the things, guys, is like I feel like God isn't hearing us, but we have to understand there's this crazy near-death experience story where there was this child. She was, I think, 7 at the time of her death, and her dad was a pastor. And she ended up dying, and was, you know, they had been trying for a long time to try to get her better and stuff like that. She's still alive today. She actually survived the ordeal. But, you know, they were doing surgeries and trying to figure out what they could do, and she passed away, and she goes up to heaven. And she's in heaven, and she's standing next to Jesus. And so this little 5-year-old girl knows who Jesus is. It's like a lot of these near-death experiences, these people who are sharing their testimony, they know everything. Like almost their mind is unlocked. They know exactly who that person is and what they did, or who that person is and their whole life story. Like knows everything about everybody. There's no hiding anything anymore. And so he goes up, and this little girl, she's standing next to Jesus, and there's all these other kids around her, and she's just super excited to be with him, and she's looking down, and Jesus is standing next to her, and she's looking down, and she sees her dad in the closet of the hospital screaming at God, like just angry, just screaming at him, and just asking why God took his daughter away from him, and just voicing his anger. And what's crazy is Jesus is standing next to this girl, and this girl is seeing her dad yelling at God in prayer, just screaming at him, angry. And Jesus is hearing that. And he's hearing that with this pastor's daughter. And he tells the little girl, you need to go home. Your dad really needs you right now. And so God is connecting with that and sends the girl back, and she ends up, coming back to life, and they ended up fixing her up, and she was good. But there's other testimonies. This is on the Sean Ryan podcast that they talked about this. She's talking about all these other experiences that she had and people that she met that she's never met in her life, that her parents never even told her about, that it's impossible for her to know those things. And so really, really interesting, really cool. So I'd highly recommend checking out the Sean Ryan podcast. In my experience, the Spirit leads me when I willfully continue to live in sin. I understand why a perfect God can have no fellowship with sin, especially when you willfully stay in it. Yeah, and what's crazy, it's not that God is, like, brother, remember that, you guys seen that reel? Brother, Anyways, it's just that he can't be around it. It physically can't be around it. So, great point, Gregory. Sin creates a barrier for sure. For atheists that are curious, like I was, check out the podcast Martyr Made. His recent episodes on Job are unlike anything anyone else has ever told me about why God would behave the way he does. I will actually have to listen to that too. 100%, the lack of fellowship always contributes to. When I surround myself with people who aren't saved and I appear no different to them, but God checks out. When I cry out to him at night because of the burden, my sins are heavy on my chest, I always feel his presence return and embrace me. Amen. Well, guys, thank you so much for joining me on this live. If you got something out of it, please recommend the channel to other people. We are actually kind of getting shadow banned a bit. God is in control, but also it does help if you get something out of the channel, share it with a friend or family member that you think would actually get some productive information out of our videos. Like I said, our goal is not just to entertain you, but our goal primarily is to be able to talk to you and show you information and what we're learning and things of that nature. So that way you guys are actually able to get free information off of YouTube and not just, entertainment. So guys, we'll be praying for you. If you have any prayer requests, please let us know. You can actually, if you have a very specific prayer request, email team@barrelandhatchet.com. And thank you so much for checking out this live. We love you. I'm thankful that you guys are here, and we're glad and blessed to be a part of this community. So we'll see you on the next one.